From Washington, this is VOA News. Coming up, the latest on the Boston Marathon bombings, plus a deadly quake hitting the Iran-Pakistan border. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Norman here in Washington. President Obama says the Federal Bureau of Investigation is looking into Monday's deadly bombings at the Boston Marathon as an act of terrorism. At a Tuesday news conference, Mr. Obama promised that those responsible will be brought to justice. More now from White House correspondent Dan Robinson.
Mr. Obama received a briefing in the Oval Office from FBI Director Robert Mueller, Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano, Homeland Security Advisor Lisa Monaco, and Chief of Staff Denis McDonough. The attacks in Boston killed 3 people, including an 8-year-old boy, and wounded 176, 17 of them critically. The FBI says its investigation into the deadly bombing at the Boston Marathon will be worldwide, and the agency will go to the ends of the earth to identify those responsible. President Obama pledged as the FBI and counterterrorism officials obtain new information, they will communicate to the media and the public. Dan Robinson, VOA News, the White House.
FBI says the probe of the twin bombings will be worldwide. 3 people were killed, as we just heard, including an 8-year-old boy. 176 were wounded, 17 critically. Counterterrorism officials say the Boston bombs were made using explosives packed in pressure cookers with shards of metal, ball bearings, and nails added for shrapnel. Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick confirmed only 2 explosive devices were found, the 2 that exploded. Among world leaders reacting to the bombings is UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon.
I condemn this senseless violence, which is all the more appalling for taking place at an event renowned for bringing people together from around the world in a spirit of sportsmanship and harmony.
Leaders from around the world, especially countries racked by violence targeting civilians, condemned the bombings at the Boston Marathon. In Washington, congressional officials say a letter sent to Republican Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi has tested positive for the deadly poison ricin. The letter was found at a facility that handles mail going to the U.S. Capitol. An investigation is underway. Ricin is highly poisonous, and a tiny drop can kill an adult. A major earthquake has struck the Iran-Pakistani border region, killing 34, leaving 80 others injured. U.S. Geological Survey said it was one of the strongest to hit the area in the past 40 years. The quake was felt as far away as the Indian capital, New Delhi, and several Gulf cities like Dubai, where some office workers briefly evacuated buildings as a precaution. John Bellini at the U.S. National Earthquake Information Center tells VOA the widespread shaking from the earthquake is typical for such an event.
Because it's a large earthquake, the vibrations that are produced by the earthquake will spread out large enough for people to feel over a wider area. Earthquake waves spread around the world as it is for just about any earthquake, but when it's a much larger earthquake, it takes a lot longer time for them to calm down, even at farther distances from the epicenter.
As for Iran, it's prone to frequent earthquakes as it sits on several major fault lines. You'll remember on April 9th, the quake hit southwestern Iran near the city of Bushehr, killing at least 37 people. Fighting briefly halted in one part of the Syrian city of Aleppo Tuesday to give Red Crescent officials a chance to retrieve bodies rotting in the streets. Officials say 31 corpses were recovered in the Ashakur neighborhood. Most of the victims, including some children, apparently were killed by snipers, but no one had been able to collect the bodies because of nonstop fighting and gunfire from Syrian troops and rebels. Some of the bodies have been lying there for months. International Monetary Fund is cutting its forecast for global economic growth and says there will be a bumpy road to recovery in developed nations. IMF experts say global growth will be about 3.3% this year, which is 0.2% lower than their assessment at the beginning of the year. The global lender says growth will improve in 2014. International Monetary Fund says that overall the Eurozone is in recession and that its economies will shrink 0.3% this year. The IMF predicts that the recession will end and that the Eurozone economies will expand slightly next year. More at voanews.com.